In a kingdom kissed by golden sunlight, where towers pierced the heavens and banners danced in the wind, there ruled a king named Aldric, a man once revered as the wisest of rulers. His name was sung in taverns, his decrees carved into the stone of Eryndor's great halls. But even the mightiest can fall, and Aldric's story is one of betrayal, exile, and a redemption that reshaped a kingdom. I'm here to take you through his journey, a tale of a king who lost everything, only to find a second chance in the ashes of his mistakes. Step into the shadows of his past, feel the weight of his crown, and discover how a broken man can forge a legacy of hope. Eryndor was a land of breathtaking beauty, its golden plains stretching to meet jagged mountains, its rivers sparkling like veins of sapphire. The capital, Caerwyn, was a marvel of white stone and spires, its grand citadel gleaming under the sun, its markets alive with the chatter of merchants and the scent of fresh bread. Aldric, in his prime, was the heart of this kingdom, a ruler whose wisdom united warring clans, whose libraries drew scholars from distant lands, and whose compassion guided Eryndor through famine and strife. But pride, even in the noblest heart, can be a crack for treachery to slip through, and Aldric's downfall began with a whisper, a serpent's voice that would shatter his world. This is not just a story of a king's fall, but of his rise from ruin, a testament to the power of humility and second chances. From the gilded halls of Caerwyn to the wilds where wolves howled, Aldric's journey teaches us that no mistake is too great to bar the path to redemption. Join me as we walk his road, through betrayal, exile, and the forging of a new legacy, and let his story inspire you to seek your own renewal. Aldric was no ordinary king. Born to King Eryndor, a stern but just ruler, Aldric grew up in the grand citadel, a boy with a curious mind and a heart for his people. His father's teachings. A true king serves, not rules, shaped him, as did his mother, Queen Leora, whose love for poetry and justice inspired his vision. By 30, when he ascended the throne, Aldric was a striking figure, tall, with auburn hair and piercing grey eyes, his presence commanding yet warm. His robes of emerald and gold shimmered, but it was his voice, steady and kind, that won hearts. In his prime, Aldric was Eryndor's guiding star. He brokered peace between the feuding clans of the Iron Hills and the Riverlands, forging the Treaty of Caerwyn, a pact that ended decades of bloodshed. He built the Great Library, its shelves filled with tomes from across the continent, and opened its doors to all, noble and commoner alike. During the famine of 1420, he rationed his own meals to feed the hungry, riding to villages with wagons of grain, his hands blistered from hauling sacks. His court was a beacon of justice, where disputes were settled with reason, not swords. Bards sang of Aldric the Wise, their lutes echoing in taverns from Caerwyn to the borderlands. But pride, subtle and insidious, crept into Aldric's heart. His successes, though earned, fed a belief that his judgment was infallible. He began to rely on a select few advisers, none more influential than Lord Varric, a wiry man with sharp eyes and a silver tongue. Varric, a noble from the coastal city of Tidehaven, had risen through charm and cunning, his loyalty to Aldric unquestioned, at least on the surface. He flattered the king, praised his wisdom, and whispered of threats, rebels in the borderlands, clans plotting to break the treaty, merchants hoarding wealth. "Your throne is not secure, my liege," Varric would say, his voice smooth as oil. "A strong hand is needed." Aldric, trusting Varric's counsel, made a fateful decision. To fund a new army and fortify the borders, he imposed a crushing tax on the borderlands, a region already strained by poor harvests. Varric assured him it was necessary, claiming the tax would deter rebellion and fill the treasury. Aldric, swayed by fear and pride, ignored the protests of his council, particularly Lady Elira, a scholar who warned of unrest. The decree was signed, the tax enforced, and the consequences were catastrophic. Villages starved as farmers surrendered their last coins, their fields left fallow. Riots erupted in the borderlands, with marketplaces burning and tax collectors fleeing for their lives. The people, once devoted to Aldric, cursed his name, their songs of praise replaced by cries of betrayal. The kingdom turned against its king, the grand citadel's walls echoing with dissent. Aldric, stunned by the backlash, sought Varric's advice, but the advisor was nowhere to be found. The truth struck like a dagger. Varric, it was revealed, had orchestrated the chaos for profit. He'd siphoned tax revenue into his own coffers, bribed tax collectors, and fueled the riots by spreading lies of Aldric's greed. His betrayal was a masterstroke, leaving Eryndor fractured and Aldric vulnerable. When the council uncovered Varric's treachery, he fled to the mountains, his coffers laden with stolen gold. Aldric faced the consequences alone, his trust shattered, his crown tarnished. The council, led by Lord Torrin, a stern but honorable man, declared Aldric unfit to rule. "Your pride blinded you, sire," Torrin said, his voice heavy with regret. "You trusted a viper and let the kingdom bleed." The vote was unanimous. Aldric was stripped of his crown, his title, his home. The Grand Citadel, once his sanctuary, became a prison as guards escorted him to the gates. The people jeered, their faces twisted with anger, their shouts a cacophony of pain. "Traitor," they cried, hurling stones that grazed his cloak. Aldric, head bowed, walked into exile, a king without a kingdom, his heart heavy with regret. Exile was a crucible, a lonely road through Eryndor's wilds where the sun offered no warmth. Aldric wandered forests of ancient oaks, their branches clawing the sky, and mountains where wolves howled under starless nights. His royal robes tore, his boots wore thin, and hunger gnawed at his belly, a constant reminder of the famine he'd failed to prevent. The wind carried the echoes of his failure, Varric's laughter, the council's verdict, the people's curses. Each step was a battle against despair, his mind replaying the tax decree, the moment he'd chosen fear over wisdom. The wilds were unforgiving, testing Aldric's body and soul. Bandits ambushed him in a ravine, their blades flashing, but Aldric, trained in swordplay, fought them off, his strength fueled by desperation. Storms battered him, soaking his cloak, the cold biting his bones. One night, stranded by a raging river, he nearly surrendered, the current's roar tempting him to let go. But his father's words, "A true king serves, not rules," ignited a spark. He plunged into the icy water, his muscles screaming, and emerged on the other side, battered but unbowed, his resolve hardened. In exile, Aldric met the people his decisions had scarred. In a borderland village called Thornwick, he found shelter in a farmer's barn, the man's fields barren from the tax. The farmer, Willem, was gaunt, his eyes hollow, but he shared his meager bread. "The king took everything," Willem said, unaware of Aldric's identity. "My daughter starves because of him." Aldric listened, his heart pierced, and worked alongside Willem, hauling water to irrigate the fields. In another village, he met Mara, a mother who'd lost her son to the riots, her grief a mirror to Aldric's own. He helped rebuild her home, his hands blistered, her stories etching themselves into his soul. These encounters were Aldric's awakening. No longer shielded by a throne, he saw the world through humbled eyes. The people were not subjects, they were individuals, each with dreams, fears, and pain he'd caused. He learned their names, Willem, Mara, young Tilda who dreamed of studying in the great library. Their struggles became his, their forgiveness his goal. Through their eyes, he saw the cost of his pride, the weight of a crown he'd worn too lightly. The wilds forged a new Aldric. He sought out scholars he'd once ignored, like Master Corwin, a hermit who taught him sustainable farming to aid starving villages. He trained with healers, like Sister Eloria, a kind-eyed woman who showed him how to brew remedies for fever. His hands, once soft from signing decrees, grew calloused, his heart open to the world's pain. He began to forgive himself, not for absolution, but to move forward, to become a man worthy of redemption. Aldric's purpose crystallized in the wilds, to right the wrongs he'd caused, not for a crown, but for honor. He vowed to heal Eryndor's wounds, to be a king worthy of trust. This was no quest for glory, it was a reckoning, a chance to reclaim his soul. He carried the faces of Willem, Mara, and Tilda, their stories fueling his resolve. His journey took him across Eryndor, from the Windswept cliffs of the storm coast to the fertile valleys of the riverlands, each step a commitment to change. In the village of Briarholt, he knelt before elders, their anger raw as they recounted the tax's toll. "Why should we trust you?" they demanded, their eyes hard. Aldric spoke honestly, his voice steady. "I failed you, and I bear that shame. But I am here to listen, to work, to make amends." He stayed for weeks, rebuilding granaries, sharing meals, and proving his sincerity. Slowly, trust grew, like a seed in barren soil. Forgiveness became Aldric's strength. He forgave Varric, not for the traitor's sake, but to free himself from hatred's chains. He forgave the council, understanding their decision as a desperate act to save Eryndor. And he sought forgiveness from his people, not expecting it, but earning it through action. In village after village, he listened, learned, and labored, his humility a bridge to healing. Returning to Eryndor was Aldric's greatest trial. Caerwyn's spires loomed, a reminder of his fall, its gates guarded by men who'd once bowed to him. He didn't demand his throne, he entered as a commoner, his cloak tattered, his face weathered. The city was fractured, its markets quiet, its people divided by the tax's legacy. Rebels in the Iron Hills threatened war, and Varric's allies, though scattered, whispered dissent. Aldric began in the slums, where the poorest lived, sharing bread and stories by firelight. He met with farmers, merchants, and former rebels, listening to their grievances, his presence a quiet challenge to their anger. "I am no king now," he told them, "but I am here to serve." He worked in the fields, repaired bridges, and spoke of reform, abolishing the tax, rebuilding villages, opening the great library to all. His sincerity disarmed skeptics, his actions kindling hope. The council, wary but intrigued, invited Aldric to speak. In the great hall, where he'd once sat on the throne, he faced Lord Torrin and Lady Elira, their faces a mix of doubt and curiosity. "I was a king who failed you," Aldric said, his voice echoing off the stone. "I seek no crown, only a chance to rebuild what I broke. Let me serve, not rule." His words, raw and honest, swayed the council, who granted him a role, not as king, but as a steward, a bridge between the crown and the people. Rebuilding Eryndor was Aldric's greatest challenge. He abolished the borderland tax, redirecting wealth to rebuild villages, granaries, and schools. He invited the council to serve as partners, ensuring no single voice could dominate again. With his people, he restored Caerwyn's markets, its fields blooming with wheat, its streets alive with laughter. He opened the great library to all, its halls filled with children like Tilda, their eyes bright with dreams. The kingdom healed, not because of gold, but because of a man who worked alongside his people, his hands as dirty as theirs. Aldric's redemption forged a new legacy. No longer the untouchable ruler, he became the people's king, compassionate, just, and wise in his humility. His story was etched in Eryndor's heart, not in stone, but in the lives he touched: Willem's thriving farm, Mara's rebuilt home, Tilda's first book. Eryndor thrived, its banners now symbols of unity and renewal, its spires gleaming under a hopeful sun. Aldric's story is a testament to the transformative power of redemption. From a king who fell to a man who rose, he showed that even the gravest mistakes can lead to a new beginning. His journey teaches us that second chances are earned through humility, hard work, and a heart open to change. Humility was his greatest lesson. By recognizing his flaws, listening to his people, and learning from his failures, he became a ruler far greater than the one who wore the crown. This tale ends with hope, a message for anyone lost in their own darkness. No fall is too great, no mistake too heavy, to bar the path to redemption. Like Aldric, you can find your second chance. Share your story, reach out, and take that first step toward healing. Join me in celebrating the power of renewal, and let's build a world where every heart can rise again.